Welcome back. So, two principal methods of mining, surface mining or underground mining. Let's talk about surface mining. There we go. So this is a removal of material from the outermost part of the earth. We're not digging underground, we're digging on the surface. Typically, when you're using this method, it's for kind of lower grade material, kind of concentration factors that are still economically viable, but kind of on the lower end of that. This kind of mining is done very shallow, but very broadly disseminated resources. So material that's close to the surface, but maybe sometimes spread out. Different types of surface mining include open pit mining, strip mining, mountaintop removal, as well as placer mining. So open pit mining is a mining technique generally used when you create a big old pit, a big old hole in the ground. Old kimberlite pipe mining is done this way, but also large-scale porphyry deposits. Because porphyry deposits, as mentioned in the previous video, is very widely disseminated, lower grade, near the surface, we can dig out these big pits, kind of extracting all of this material out to extract the material that we want. So this is actually a smaller open pit. This is on the smaller side of open pits. Typically what you do is you kind of dig down in a spiral. As you're digging, you kind of drill holes, you put some dynamite down there, you blow it up, that stuff turns to rubble, turns to rock. You take that rock, you transport it out of the big spiral into a crusher, you crush it up, and then from there, a number of processes to extract whatever it is you want. Chemically do that, with different chemical mixtures, acid, you might heat it up and melt out material that you need. So there's different processes to do all that. But essentially with open pit mining, again, you're taking rocks out and crushing them up to extract what you need. And it happens in kind of big circular pit. Since porphyry deposits are commonly mined with open pits are typically the biggest mines in the world. You'll have the open pit mine usually is the biggest type because they're mining out porphyry, which extends over the biggest amount of areas. Strip mining, it's the removal of strips of soil and rock to expose some sort of ore, a lot of times coal. So this strip mine, you're peeling off layers of the earth to get to something below. Obviously you can see somewhat shallow, close to the surface. In this case, coal is what they're looking for. It's very common in strip mining. Before we go on, let me give you another part of the super secret code. It is the number 4. They got me? The number 4. One more time, the number 4. So how that kind of works. So it's kind of like a big strip. So starting from right to left. So you start to remove the soil, you dig down, you dig down, you dig down until you get to what you want. A lot of times in this case, coal. As you're digging this stuff down, you're kind of piling it off onto the other side. You're kind of piling it off to the other side. And you kind of keep moving, in this case, this would kind of keep moving to the right. You keep moving this stuff to get to the coal. Any of that stuff that you put here, that you take away from here, you put it back over here, and that land becomes reclaimed. All right, it's definitely different than what it was before, but you're allowing the land to kind of regenerate by recreating land on the other side. Something that doesn't really do that too well is another type of mining called mountaintop removal. Very much what it sounds like. It's a mining technique in which you take the entire top of a mountain off with explosives. Again, most likely you're trying to find coal in this way, because you can have seams of coal, layers of coal. So instead of kind of dangerously digging it out from the side, heck, just blow the whole top off the mountain, and that'll expose the coal, and then we just take all the coal. So again, what it sounds like, you get these different seams of coal, you just peel off the top layer, take the coal. Peel off that layer, take the coal. Peel off that layer, take the coal. Peel off that layer, take the coal. All that stuff's got to go somewhere, so you typically just dump it in the valleys right next to these mountains. This type of mining is very common in like Virginia and Kentucky, in Appalachia, where pretty poor areas, so they can take advantage of some of those poor people. Oh, you live here? Well, guess what? I'm going to dump all my stuff here. Sorry. They may get paid to move. They may not. Coal is kind of king in some of these areas, and it does a lot of bad for the good. So you're taking gorgeous mountainous areas, taking all that mountain stuff, essentially dumping it in the valley next to it to create essentially now flatland, where once was mountains, now it's just flat ground. I personally think this is horrible. It's a personal feeling, but hey, people use coal. It's used to generate electricity. What are you going to do? And you get placer mining, the process of looking for minerals, metals, precious stones in river sediment. Again, I had mentioned with placer mining, you think of the 49ers, the 1849ers, the gold rush 49ers, when they made their way to California or Alaska. Again, they're panning through river sediments, looking for gold. Well, nowadays that's not typically how you do it. For fun and recreation, you can do that. Sometimes I go gold panning. I've never found anything, but sometimes you do that for fun. Nowadays, you can use large machines, large what are called dredges. So essentially what they're doing is sucking up river sediment, putting it through a bunch of these machines that shake. The heavy gold will kind of settle out of the bottom. The lighter rocks and stuff get kind of pumped out the back, so you collect the gold that way. Same process. You don't need a dredge or a boat. You just need some heavy machinery. You dig up a bunch of sediment, put it in this, essentially what's a shaker. It shakes all the material. The gold, since it's heavier, tends to settle to the bottom. The lighter material kind of just makes its way out. So here's an example of how kind of a dredge, a boat works. Again, it's just a big, either it's a big pipe sucking up sediment, or these big buckets that are eating away at the sediment and kind of putting into these shakers. The gold, which is heavier, falls down. The lighter stuff gets kind of pushed out the back. So anyway, those are some different methods. So I think when people think of mining, most people are thinking pit mining. This is kind of the common mining, surface mining people think about. But again, there's also strip mining, mountaintop removal, and placer mining. But we also mine underground. Right? So that's probably another common way people think of mining. So when do we mine underground instead of just on the surface? Well, this is a mining technique we use when the desired resource is more than 100 meters, over 300 feet below the surface. It's just too expensive to just dig your way down to remove 300 feet of material called overburden to get to the stuff that you want. So instead, you just drill a small hole down and attack it from the side. When you're doing this kind of technique, obviously it's for material that's deeper underground, more kind of localized in the smaller areas, and typically the material you mine needs to be of a higher grade, a higher concentration, because it's much more expensive. Right? It's much more expensive to do this process, to drill down. You think of labor costs, safety, machinery, all this stuff. Surface mining, you just kind of move some stuff and pick it up. There's a lot more involved here, so it needs to be a higher grade. But coal, diamonds, gold, just some of the material extracted by surface mining, which again can be more economically valuable. Now, when we think of underground mining, a lot of people, this is what they think of. All right? Guys down underground, all dirty, digging up coal and whatnot. Well, yes, historically, that may have been what it looked like. Nowadays, it's big tunnels, air ventilation, big machines that can get down there. It's still dangerous. I mean, there's still issues that happen, and we'll look at that in lab. But it's very much not what people have in mind when they think of underground mining. So again, after about 300 feet, you just dig underground. All right. So if you can do open pit mining, but if the stuff is just too deep down, we'll just skip that, drill down, and then drill over to it. And you can get people down there, you get machines down there, a number of different things. All right. So let's pause there. When we come back, we'll talk about the environmental and societal impact of mining to wrap up this unit. All right. So we'll pause here, and I'll see you back in just a second.